The Council of Horde being still in session, God Eolait, being provisionally promoted from Vice-God, ascended the throne. And the light of Jehovah fell upon God, so that he was almost obscured from sight, and the voice of Jehovah spoke, saying, Hear my voice, as by my presence and of my own self I, Jehovah, made each self, and gave to each power of words. So am I in light manifest by soul words to my Etherian hosts. O lords of earth, as you have provided Ashars, and above them Asaphs, and between all my kingdoms allotted messengers, so shall you also for barbarians provide familiar spirits, who shall be subject to the order of the Ashars and their lords. I, Jehovah, create alive all mortals, whether Ahins or barbarians, and your labor, O you lords of earth, shall be not only with my chosen, the Ahins, whom it is easy to save, but also with those who do not know me or my worlds. For besides those destroyed by the flood, behold, the earth is still covered over with men, women and children. In the time of Af you lords received volunteers from Oahspe, in Etheria, place this matter into their hands. Accordingly, this transference of responsibilities to the volunteers from Oahspe was done, and they, the volunteers from Oahspe, were divided up into groups. Then, since the angels of heaven had already numbered the Corporeans, the Etherians, who were the volunteers from Oahspe, were distributed accordingly. And these Etherians selected and apportioned familiar spirits to abide with the barbarians. And these familiar spirits were the fathers, mothers and friends who had recently died, but still sojourned in the first resurrection. So the officers provided places on earth for these spirits, and persuaded them to reappear before mortals, in order to prove continued life, but the officers never showed themselves. Jehovah has said, Provide the way, but cause the familiars to do the labor. Neither shall you Etherian volunteers from Oahspe make a familiar of the spirit of a young man or a young woman, lest they become fetals. So the situation, came to pass that a new department of heaven and earth was opened and founded during the absence of Neph, the temporarily reassigned god of earth, and in 1 year it, with it being the new department, was prosperous. At the end of 1 year God Neph returned from the Hachuan colony, bringing with him 5 million volunteers, who were of the third resurrection. And, it being known in Horde when he would return, a great concourse of angels gathered together to receive him in honor, and to welcome the volunteers. So that, when God's, which is to say, Neph's, Etherian star descended, the Vice-God Eolait proclaimed a recreation of 10 days, which was to follow immediately after God Neph ascended the throne and regained his presence. And so, while the Essenors were singing, the star alighted, and the marshals and hosts of honor proceeded to their places, and received God, who, at once, ascended the throne and saluted Eolait, son of Jehovah, saying, By your will and power, O Jehovah, your son, your Neph, rejoices in the time of this proceeding. Eolait said, Welcome, God of heaven and earth. And he saluted with the sign of Jehovah's name, and was answered in like manner. Without further ceremony, he, Eolait, took off the triangle of the gods and placed it on God's neck, on the neck of Neph, saying, In Jehovah's name, receive the gift of the ancient gods. Hardly had this been accomplished when the larger starship alighted on the floor of the Congress, before the council, and near the altar of Jehovah, and the 5 million volunteers alighted, amid the applause of the many millions assembled. God Neph, being reinstated, said, Let the marshals proclaim 10 days of recreation. For we shall account to our special loves how we found matters in Hachuan, and of the power of Jehovah manifested.